Welcome to In the Money, sponsored by Flyer Financial Technologies, the company that builds cutting-edge technology designed to solve asset and wealth management firms' toughest trading workflows. In this podcast, we help advisors and asset managers understand how technology is transforming the wealth tech sector. We'll cover how to leverage technology for faster, smarter investment decisions, megatrends, and more. Now, on to the show.
Welcome to In the Money. I'm your host, Rusty Sommer, and we're joined today by Tony Stich of MarketCounsel. Welcome, Tony. How are you?
Rusty, I'm doing fantastic on day 2 of the summit, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun. So, one of the things what I'm interested in hearing from you, because I haven't been able to attend all the sessions because I've been sitting here talking to the people who've been doing them.
Sure.
Let's recap the conference a little bit. Let's talk about, why Market What do you bring to the industry? And I think interesting to a lot of people, what got covered this year? What was the content? What's the faculty like? And what value are people driving from being here?
Sure. So let's take a step back, though, and kind of talk about the history of the summit. This is the 16th summit. Yeah. And it's really been, we call it the seminal event of the year, the capsule of the year. It's always in December, around the holidays. And the curriculum, so for folks listening at home, our agenda is actually our curriculum, right? We teach them. It's more like teaching, right? And interactive sessions. So our curriculum is built by a committee, and the faculty committee reviews all the nominations. And they come in throughout the year, and we kind of store them, and the committee looks them over. This year was different, though, in a cool way.
Okay.
And because we had all these nominations and, a lot of the same, right? Some new ones for sure. And we decided to take a bit of a shift in the curriculum and kind of look at it from a different perspective, right? So the summit attracts hundreds of the most successful RAs across the country, right? It's in fact, Our guests are arguably some of the best ever. We don't rely on the quantity of guests, we rely on the quality of the guests. And so we make sure that the curriculum is the best it can be.
Right.
And we get grief for a lot of things, one of which being the fact that the curriculum comes out so late in the year. And I chuckle about this because I began to learn why. Because I've been a curriculum member for 3 of the last 6 years I've attended the summit.
Okay.
And I've always said, why is the agenda coming out? Why am I not hearing about it? And Brian's like, trust me on this. And so this year I got to see how the sausage was made, if you will.
Yeah.
And I learned that the curriculum is in real time for a reason, because we are in an industry that is in real time. And if we published the agenda 2 months ago, for instance, we wouldn't have Dan Gallagher from Robinhood talking about the acquisition.
Yeah, right?
Or actually, he was actually talking about turning down Trump's nomination for the upcoming administration.
Right.
We had Steve, and Rob Baldwin of Trade PMR talking about the acquisition. So we had real-time information happening at our summit. I want to talk about one more point, Rusty, before we move on. This year we brought on a lot of new faces.
Right.
And this was kind of cool because what happened was, Brian and I kind of went to the committee with some folks, and we were looking over all the nominations, and Brian's like, some of these names are new.
Yeah.
People I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, Brian, look at it this way. What if they're outside the ecosystem and they should be in the ecosystem? What if we had technology providers that are up and coming, that are proven out software systems that should be in front of our guests?
Sure.
And so this year it's pretty cool because we have a lot of new faces on the curriculum.
And I would agree with that. Having been to 3 of the last 5 of these, there are some new faces, and there are people from outside the ecosystem. There are people that I know that, kind of industry experts that just for whatever reason hadn't been here consistently, and they're here this year.
Yeah.
So
that's really cool.
It is very cool. So what are some of the key takeaways and major themes from this summit?
That's a great question. And there's a little bit of a nuance that people aren't seeing in the curriculum. On day 1, we started really talking about, regulation and growth and operations, but the curriculum was built this year in a way where you'd start day 1 thinking about how to grow your business operationally, but also from a top-line perspective. Day 2 was about providing advice to niche audiences leveraging technology. So it was really almost like we put the horse after the cart, like you should, right? So it was an idea. The idea was the curriculum was kind of building almost throughout. So, but the topics covered are practice management, regulation, technology. But some of those, I want to bring up a few of them that stood out to me.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. John O'Connell led a very provocative panel on AI.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And some new faces, right? Yeah, now we have Oleg, who's been a great partner of the firm. He's been on stage a few times. We had Devon Drew this year, building something incredible at Asset Link. We had Kartik, who just took the new job at Advisen. So, like, we have some new faces on that panel, which was awesome, but also new old faces in new roles with Invent and Advisen, of course. We had other folks too. One of my favorite ones, by the way, Rusty,
which one?
Was actually investor longevity, and because you know this, I was the CEO of Naviplan for almost a decade, and we talked about Monte Carlo simulations and planning for someone to die at 90 or whatever it was. We had Russ Hill, who was a Amazon top book-selling author, right? We had Tori Hoppe from Holistiplan. We had Bob Lipsy. And we talked about how we're not planning appropriately for longevity and the idea that people are living longer and longer lives. Now, at first you think, okay, not a big deal, right? Just change the Monte Carlo simulation, add a new age. But there's so much more complexity to that.
There's a philosophy there that has to change.
Yes. How you address this? How do you approach someone that's older, but that's still with it, right? And I don't want to get into details, but how do you talk to them about their money?
Sure. And
when they should start thinking about giving that money up or letting someone else take control of that money. So it was a really provocative conversation that I thought came off as, the audience was into it. So that was really, it's cool to see.
Yeah, and I think, thematically that touches on the idea of, personalized delivery and hyper-personalized advice.
Yes.
Right? Because everybody's a little different, and that concept and idea of longevity is really unique to each person.
Yeah. Think about it like you become a therapist.
Right.
More than an advisor.
Yeah.
And you become a therapist not just for the person you provide advice to, but also their family. Yeah. So it really changes the way we think about delivering advice.
Yeah, very much so. Kind of after some of the sessions, you certainly are bouncing around talking to a lot of people. What have been some of the interesting pieces of feedback that you've gotten from some of the people who are attending?
So, you have to separate someone blowing smoke from someone who's giving you a good compliment. Yeah. And I think, we're at Fontainebleau, Las Vegas. This hotel is incredible.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The food has been fantastic, right? The guests have been great. We have a fairly well-attended event this year. In fact, it's bigger than the last few years. But I've heard the same thing over and over again, that the curriculum was the best I've ever seen. And it goes to show that if you bring on folks with different perspectives and you let them have unfettered access to not only as guests, but as fellow panelists, you see something happen. So, for instance, I don't know if you watched the personalized asset management panel, but we had a guy that built an active management software and a guy that built a passive. So we put them on the same stage.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
And they challenge each other, but it was in a very delightful way. Right, the dialogue and the debate was delightful, and that was run by Chip Kispert, who's obviously a brilliant mind in and of himself. So, I got a lot of comments on that, which made me felt we did our job. Because if you're going to leave, you left your family, I left my family over the holidays. If you're going to leave your family at the end of the year, closing the books, all this nonsense, if the curriculum doesn't meet the standard of walking away for a couple of days, then we've failed.
Well, and I think that the other thing too that I've noticed during this particular conference, and it's a change from other ones, and you and I both go to 100 of these crazy things.
Sure.
There's a renewed sense of collaboration and partnership. People realize that being around other smart, interesting, influential people and having an opportunity to, in a non-confrontational way, talk with them and listen, that you get so much more out of things. Not only just at the conference, but even outside, because maybe you've made 1 or 2 or 4 new relationships with people who are like you, but you haven't had a chance to meet with, and you've said, hey, how are you dealing with X? I'm seeing this. What's Y look like? And they're willing to engage with you on that level.
Rusty, you've just described perfectly the guest experience here. There is no conference in this space where people are willing to talk so openly about the challenges they face, about regulations, whatever the case is. I mean, I've had some sponsors here that have said, I can't believe, like, there's no guards, there's no handlers.
Yeah.
People that join the summit, that attend the summit, are here for one reason, is to learn and to engage. And it is unfiltered. In fact, one of the value props we have about the summit, and I know you know this, is that we have over 17 hours of unstructured time. Now, Brian calls it networking. I call it unstructured because it fosters conversation and it fosters dialogue that you just don't get at these other conferences. And so the summit is very different in that way. And it doesn't matter if it's a sponsor or a consultant or a fellow RA. Right. Everyone's talking the same language, which is awesome. But I actually met someone last night at dinner, and he's just starting up 2 months into it. And he's like, Tony, I'm drinking from a fire hose and I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to guys like Jack Ginter or Rick Kent or whoever it is.
Sure.
And they're saying, I get to ask them questions.
Yeah.
I get to talk to them about their problems they faced. That is what makes the summit so special.
So, Flyer Financial, we're a technology company.
Yeah.
We provide portfolio management and trading tools, amongst other things. So one of the things I'm always interested in when I come to a conference is what's the evolving landscape of technology?
Sure.
What's new? What's coming out? What are you seeing that's really intriguing to you?
So everyone says AI is going to eat the world. And I totally, I do agree. I do agree that AI is going to, just like the internet, it's going to transform the way we operate. Right. But what I'm seeing in the it's actually, I'm gonna be more vague.
Okay.
Rusty, I'm going to talk about the speed at which we can develop apps. And of course, that's a lot has to do with AI. But what we're seeing now is, look, I was at Naviplan for, like I said, almost a decade. And we had a few million lines of code, right? You can build a planning tool now with a fraction of that. And so what we're seeing now are these awesome new tools. I met a technology here that's building out tax planning software that can go straight to the IRS, right?
Wow, you're right. Yes.
Plan in advance. Yep. I saw a great a new doc vault system that's out. That's actually a delightful experience. So we're just seeing stuff evolve so rapidly. So I don't want to pick a category. I want to pick the fact that new entrants, it's not as hard to break into this space. It's those that last, of course, right? So I think that's the big question we have to ask ourselves is if we are going to commit to new softwares, can they survive, right? Can they get that groundswell? Can you get that level of support they need? But I'm gonna be very neutral and just say it's the speed at which we're seeing these apps develop.
All right, super interesting. So wrapping up 2024, heading into 25.
Sure.
Kind of give me your prediction for 25. What's going to be the most impactful thing in wealth management in 2025?
Okay, well, that's very complicated because you have a new administration coming in.
Yep.
Right? We're going to see a lot of changes at the SEC, we believe. We're seeing the proliferation of AI. I can't even say that word. We see Bitcoin at all-time highs.
Yeah.
Right? So I think there's so much unknown, right?
Sure.
That it's going to be hard to predict. But what I think is going to happen is we're going to see an economy growing. I think we're at kind of like we've seen growth so far. Sure. And I think that's going to create I think I have to be careful. I was going to say frothy environment, but I have to be careful now that I work for MarketCounsel. But what I think we're going to see is a lot of evolution in the space. And what we're noticing here at the summit is that point solutions, right? Those individualized solutions that offer technology for very special investors. We're going to see a lot more of that. Why? Because the millennials, those that are now becoming really kind of focused on retirement, thinking about the next stage of their lives, they expect something more unique, right? So I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a proliferation of more tools that are servicing that niche-based advice delivery process, coupled with, of course, AI, who's coming for us all. And not in a RoboCop way. Come on now, no. But just how technology will evolve.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty interesting, and certainly, even preparing for sitting down with you, I sat down with an AI model and like, oh, well, what should I talk about, and like, how would that go? And it gave me some great ideas, and I've been using it more and finding so many productivity hacks that
it's wild.
It's a little creepy about how good it is sometimes. Still needs a human, but
yeah, it's so far, right?
so-
But look, if you want grand predictions, like I think that, like, I'll give you one that I've been ruminating on the last couple of years. I think the internet will be, as we know the internet, it won't look the same in 10 years. I think the AI will become the internet in such a way where I don't think we're going to see websites like you think. I don't think you're going to see point solutions like that. I think we're going to see that. Also, it's time to blow up email.
Please.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to happen too. I mean, obviously there's technologies like Superhuman out there, but I think that's AI is going to really disrupt the email space.
Okay.
Believe it or not, but also the way we know the internet.
Interesting. Well, Tony, it's always good to catch up with you. Thanks for joining today's episode of In the Money. I'm your host, Rusty Sommer. I'm fortunate enough to have been joined today by my very good friend, Tony Stich, Executive Managing Director of MarketCounsel Consulting. If you don't know Flyer FT, we power the fintech you love and use every day. Thanks, Tony.
Rusty, thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to In the Money, the show that delivers advisors, asset managers, broker-dealers, and other technology service providers the knowledge they need to navigate this industry. Don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Flyer Financial Technologies. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.